What is up, you guys? Marty McFly coming at you, bringing you guys the movies. Today, I wanted to wish everyone a happy New Year and a much belated Merry Christmas. My intent was to do a Christmas time video at the timing that I actually watched this movie. However, I did not get around to it because I got a little overworked and a little lazy around the holiday season. So sorry for the delay in content. Got a bunch of new stuff coming out for you guys. Today we're going to do something a little bit different that I haven't done in a while since the last time I actually talked about a movie, and this movie just had so much of an impact on me. I'm still processing and still thinking about it, even weeks after I had already seen it. Of course, this movie I'm talking about is Nosferatu 2024. Came out on Christmas Day in conjunction with Universal Pictures. I will go and right on a limb and say it. This is one of my favorite horror movies in the last decade. It seems that there's a lot of people in agreement with me, and there's a lot of people that disagree, and I think there's just a lot of angry people on the internet these days. But this is really one of those movies I feel like we've been waiting for a long time. And ever since I heard that this movie was being made, I was jumping at the bit and salivating, waiting to see what Robert Eggers was going to do with this film. If you're not familiar with Robert Eggers, he's also the same guy that did The Northman, he did The Lighthouse, he did The Vitch, and he is so in tune with his period piece movies, and that's exactly what this is. This movie, not only just being a fantastic horror movie in general, is also a wonderful period piece filled with atmosphere, incredible cinematography, multiple languages, the feeling of dread, and just an all-around great horror movie. I've been waiting to see something like this for a very, very long time, especially since Halloween Ends decided to kick us in the teeth. I mean, I still enjoyed parts of Halloween Ends, but it's not the movie we were asking for. It's not the movie we wanted. I think it's a fun movie. It's straight up punk rock, and I love the vibes of that film, but I really wish they had saved that for a different Halloween, Michael Myers era movie. This movie did not disappoint. I will go and argue with my brother all day long. He is a little bit older, and I think he's starting to get out of like the gore and the blood, and he says he gave it like a 7 out of 10. To me, this is the first 10 out of 10 horror movie I've seen in a very, very long time. And when I had finally gotten the 5 minutes alone to actually sit down and watch this movie, I watched it a couple days after Christmas. There was not a lot of people in the movie theater. It was very quiet. And the people that were in the movie went in talking and did not come out talking. And it was just a fantastic movie theater experience, which I feel like we don't have very many of these days. I mean, when I went to go see Terrifier 3, there was like 14-year-old kids running around that should not have been in that movie theater, and it really kind of messed up the experience. Thank God they got kicked out 10 minutes later, and the rest of the movie I had a blast. But this is one of those movies where I feel like it captures you and really envelops you into the atmosphere, the cinematography, and just the general dread that you get from this film. It was impossible to look away. Everything on the screen just captured me. And this movie was a huge escape from reality for me too. I just gotten off from like a long work shift, didn't really want to go back to work the next day. Was really just exhausted and really needed a break. And then I finally sat down and watched this, and it really did. It just captured me, and it was a wonderful escape from reality. 5 things that I loved about this movie, and yes, I'm going to call it a 10 out of 10. This is the first horror movie in a while, maybe except for the Halloween in 2018, where I really felt like it was a 10 out of 10 experience. But 5 things I really loved about this movie, first and foremost, is the atmosphere. Everything that is circumvented in this film is built on atmosphere, whether you're talking about the cinematography of the long countrysides of Eastern Europe, or if you're talking about the graveyards, the snow, the dread that you feel from like this Victorian period piece that we're getting, you know, to the plague that we're dealing with. You know, everything was just, it just captures you and like sucks you in. Number 2, the cinematography is just phenomenal. The way they chose their millimeter of camera, the way they chose their scene sets, even just the snowy scenes in the graveyard, you almost want to go hang out in this graveyard just because you feel like you're almost there. The crunching of the snow, the dead branches, the fog that's coming through the streets and the fog that's coming through the graveyard. Everything about this film just sucks you in, and I couldn't help but fall in love with it. You know, even going to where the gypsies were in the eastern countryside, going up to Count Orlok's castle, everything was about cinematography and atmosphere, and it's something that Robert Eggers does so well. And I mean, he really knows how to manipulate your senses into making you feel really sucked in. And he did the same thing with The Village and The Lighthouse and The Northman, and he's very good at this. Number three, one of the things that I love about this movie, there's so many languages going on, it's almost hard to keep up. But I mean, I feel like everything is just really makes you feel like you are in Germany or you are in Romania, and you are getting this feeling of like being surrounded by all these languages. I mean, you think about how many languages are going on in this movie. You have Dacian, which is technically a dead language that they resurrected to bring back for this movie. They are speaking Romanian, they are speaking German, they are speaking English. And I mean, it's incredible. Now, the origins of Nosferatu, if you were to go look at the etiology, there's a couple different things about the meaning of this word where it could have been derived from. But Nosferatu, which is, the Romanian translation, but what could be where Nosferatu came from, it's probably the closest. And then there's Nosoboros, which is Greek, which is kind of close as well. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not an expert in this, but these are just some of the things that I found the quickest that seem to be closest to this word. But I mean, this movie has so many languages. There may have even been Russian and Latin. I don't remember, because I remember they're reading a lot of text in this book. But you have Romanian, you have Dacian, you have English, you have German, you have so many things going on. And that really does just help pull you into this piece. Number four, the soundtrack. Oh my goodness. This is one of the best soundtracks for a horror movie, I think, that we've had basically since John Carpenter. I mean, they did it so well, and too much to the point where I went on Spotify and played the soundtrack from front to finish. But, you do have a lot of the horror vibes and a lot of the dread and a lot of the creaky sounds and really dissonant, like, panic chord, like, piano pieces that they play. But then the last 30 minutes of the movie, especially, when you really start to get to the exciting and the beauty of this movie and the soundtrack really pulls you in. They did it such a fantastic feeling of getting you that feeling of excitement and rush and panic, and you need to basically come save the day at the end, and almost gives you a superhero vibe. And I just thought that with waiting and pulling that in slowly was just fantastic. And then even then throughout the movie, you have these beautiful melodic piano pieces that come and go throughout the film. And it's not just dread and just panic, dissonant chords. No, you actually have a lot of beauty and melody to the soundtrack as well. And then the next one, I mean, honestly, out of this movie, it's just a genuinely scary horror movie. I'll be honest with you, it's hard to, like, create a good scary horror movie. Everyone's just so focused on blood and, like, I mean, gore, I never really found that gore made me scary. But, everyone always digs on the suspense and the pop-up scenes and like things that like the jump scares, things that like they scare you, and there's plenty of jump scares in the film, don't get me wrong, but this movie genuinely, like, I feel like once you're in the movie, I mean, it really is a genuinely terrifying horror movie, especially Count Orlok when he starts biting his victims and you start to hear like the sucking sounds of when he's like biting them and sucking their blood out. It's terrifying. I mean, I feel like no movies of recent, at least in the last bunch of horror movies that we were forced to watch, no one really dealt with that. Like, I mean, for the most part, you get the sucking part and then it's over. But this is the first time in a while where, like, the guy bites and then you're forced to listen to him, like, ingesting this guy's blood. Not a lot of movies have done that as of recent, and it's really just, it really fits the motif, and it's just scary. It's a genuinely great horror film. It did a number on me, did a great job of scaring me half to death. I thought they did a fantastic job with it, but it's also just a beautiful horror movie. And, an extra piece I'm going to throw in there, I mean, the story is fantastic. At the end of the day, it's a horror movie with a romantic tragedy in it, if you really think about it, just kind of like how Dracula was. If you're not familiar, I mean, Nosferatu came about essentially as like an unestablished continuation of Dracula, but due to copyright issues, no one could use Dracula, so you basically had Count Orlok, and you had all these, like, different casts and stuff. But the casting is fantastic. Lily Rose Depp, Willem Dafoe, Hutter as Thomas. I mean, the casting, and then, of course, Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu. The casting was fantastic. I really, really genuinely enjoyed this movie. I hope you guys enjoyed this movie too, because this movie gets me excited just thinking about it. Can't wait to pre-order the Steelbox. I will definitely be adding this to my yearly rewatch list over and over again. And I hope you guys enjoyed this too. I would say that the only flaw of this movie, like I said, it's a horror movie, it's a period piece, it's a romantic tragedy. You guys know Dracula, and the ending is, it's spoiler alert and not spoiler alert. I'm not gonna tell you what happens, but the ending is heartfelt but sad and horrible all at the same time. So there's like all these emotions going on at the very finish of the film. So it's like, I mean, they just did such a fantastic job, but it didn't leave me feeling like, oh darn, I'm sad I watched this movie because the ending. No, the ending is just a horrible romantic tragedy, but it's beautiful at the same time. And I think that's another reason why I love this movie so much. In addition, like, just fantastic casting. I would say if there's one flaw or one downside to this entire film is the darn mustache. I get they were trying to make Count Orlok, because, he's technically royalty, but just lose the mustache. I mean, I really feel like it detracted me. Every time I saw the mustache, I'm like, can we shave, just get rid of it? Because if you watch all the other Nosferatu films, he's this horrible, disfigured, like, bald, ugly man who's terrible to look at, but I feel like the mustache kind of humanizes him a little bit more. I mean, it is like I said, it's a horrible romantic tragedy, but he's still a monster, and I feel like the mustache really detracts from the monstrosity that is this guy, that is Count Orlok. So I would say if there's one downfall to the entire film, and I mean, I love the length of it, I think this movie needed to be long. So if you don't like long movies, I mean, I don't know what to do for you. Your brain's probably rotted by TikTok by now. But I love the fact that this is a long movie. This needed to be a long movie. And out of all the things that could have gone wrong with this film, I'd say the only flaw is that darn mustache. But that's enough about that. Like I said, Nosferatu 2024, I'm so glad it came out on Christmas. It is a perfect horror movie for me. 10 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, please consider doing so. Like I said, this movie was a huge escape from reality for me, and it really did change my outlook on horror movies. And then the cherry on top, Robert Eggers is doing a werewolf movie in 2026, again coming out on Christmas. Werewolf. And of course, that's going to come out on Christmas again, 2026. It's going to be a 13th century period piece using old language. I'm down for it. I think it's going to be even more terrifying if you're using these old, desolate, 13th century villages where there's no escape and using older language. I think it's going to be great. It's going to probably scare the crap out of me. I'm here for it. Count me in. That is Nosferatu 2024. Like I said, go see it. It's a great horror movie. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.